that structure with you that I came up with an 8-step process that we all can follow in order to become a passionate lifelong learner. And I want to point out again that things that I'm going to cover, you know this already, but I'm just here to remind you what you already know. I was talking to my dad a couple of years ago over the phone. I mean, I love my dad. He's one of my mentors. He's probably the reason why I still have bald head. He was telling me, Russell, do you remember when you're 5 years old, you knew the name of 192 countries and the capital city of those countries? Wow. I was shocked because I not only don't remember them, I don't even remember remembering them. So I always said that human brain is a bucket with a hole in it. We know the information, we learn information, but we're losing those information. Do you remember everything you have learned when you're in high school or in college? You do?
No.
No. So we are constantly losing information and we need to fill out our bucket. I found out one of the statistics that 80% of the people are working in a field that had nothing to do with their college degree. Now I'm going to ask you this question. How many of you are working with something that has nothing to do with your college degree? Can you please raise your hand? Oh, over here I see that statistically it's probably 40% of the people are not working with what they are. But statistically 80% of the people are doing something that has nothing to do with their degree. That's another reason why we should become a lifelong learner. So in order to become a lifelong learner, step one is that we need to appreciate and understand the importance of lifelong learning. B.B. King, the greatest musician, once says that, I forgot his quote, but I want to read it to you from my book. The beautiful thing about learning is that no one can take it away from you. When we consistently learn, it stays with us. Nobody can take it away from us. And you're hearing it from a cool guy. You're not hearing it from a nerd. So learning, in order to become a passionate lifelong learner, again, step one is to understand and appreciate the value of lifelong learning. Now I want to talk about Bill Gates. You heard his story millions of times before, I'm sure. I want to tell you why I'm telling his story. When I was young, I always dreamed about becoming like Bill Gates. I always dream about that. One of the reasons I came to this country almost 21 years ago, I believe Bill Gates is one of the reasons. He inspired me to come over here. And I was in watching Charlie Rose show, and Charlie Rose was interviewing his dad, and he asked his dad, "Why do you think your son became successful? Why?" So his dad was saying is that beside being focused, his number one reason I believe my son became successful because he has intellectual curiosity to learn. He's a passionate lifelong learner. One of the proudest moments of my life was when my company, Netcom Learning, became the #1 Microsoft CPLS in the world out of 1,700. Even though Bill Gates didn't give the award, Steve Ballmer gave the award, I was still proud because it's Bill Gates' company. I was very proud at one. Thank you. I felt very proud that once I bought a magazine called Computer User Magazine, then we rebranded it as Technology and Training Magazine, and my marketing person was able to convince Bill Gates to write an article for the magazine. And even now, I never met him, and I want to meet him in some days. But even though I never met him, I feel like I know him. I see that recently he's been reading about cholera, malaria, all these different type of disease. The reason he's learning about that because he's doing philanthropic work. So I'm always curious, why would world richest man, okay, he's second richest man now, why does he need to learn? He has enough money, he doesn't need to learn. It's because he's a passionate lifelong learner, he's a committed lifelong learner. So I want to read a quote. I want to read a quote from Gandhi. It's right on top of my book, and it's one of my favorite quotes. Live as if you were to die tomorrow. Learn as if you're to live forever. He was a committed lifelong learner. Bill Gates is a committed lifelong learner. Did you guys remark something? Two of us have a lot of things in common. Bald head, you got glasses, I got glasses. He looks weird, I look weird too. Three weird people.
He doesn't very sad though.
Thanks. I want to share a story. I was talking about earlier that what's the Netcom learning purpose? Our purpose is to promote the values of lifelong learning. And in order to promote the value, every month we are giving out a scholarship to individuals who want to pursue their career but cannot afford the tuition fee. So far we've given out 27 scholarships, over $70,000 worth of training we give out for free. And one of the scholarships was given to this lady, Caroline Christie. She is over 60 years old. She got her master's degree from which university in South Africa, somewhere in South Africa. And right now she's teaching young gifted kids about computer hardware, computer software, and she wants to teach them also about how to build a website. She applied for the scholarship, she got the scholarship, and I will share a quote she shared with us. Let me see if I can find it. Winning this scholarship will make me to keep up to date in the IT field and never lose my edge. She doesn't want to lose her edge. Caroline Christie is a passionate, lifelong student. She's a passionate, lifelong student. One of my favorite quotes from Socrates, she said, "As for me, all I know is that I know nothing." And I see that over the years I met a lot of students in Netcom. We have trained over 65,000 people from 22,000 companies. And I saw that there's three types of learning audience out there. One group of people, I call them graduate. These are the people that think they know it all. You can't teach them anything. Once you talk about an issue, they say, "Oh, I have already heard it somewhere else." There's another group of people, I call them underperformers. If you put them in a classroom, they're bored. They don't want to go through the class. Of course, I know you guys are bored because of my presentation skills, but a lot of people actually don't like to take classes. They don't like to be trained by somebody else. And there's a third group of people, they're passionate, lifelong students. Caroline Christie is a lifelong student. She's over 60 years old. She doesn't want to lose her edge. So in order for us to become a lifelong learner, we need to develop the right learning attitude. We cannot become a lifelong learner unless we become a lifelong student. Oops, my picture again. I didn't put it there. Some of you might think I'm in love with myself, but it's my marketing people who put it there. But I want to tell you my story. And again, I started Netcom Learning almost 13 years ago, and I'm proud of the fact in the last 13 years we have grown every single year, and we became profitable every single year. I'm on the process of also starting a new business called Learning G, where we are going to be building a platform and create some learning video channel online, and we're looking for investment for that. But what I want to share with you, a lot of times people ask me, "Russell, tell me what made you successful. How did you become successful? How did you learn about the business? Did you get your MBA in business?" When I started the business, I knew nothing about business. Nothing. My college background is computer science. And I remember 3 years into the business, one consultant came in and shared some statistics with me. That, "Russell, did you know that 80% of the businesses fails on the first 3 to 5 years?" When I heard that statistic, I was scared as hell. I was so glad nobody shared that story with me before I started the business. Then I would have never started the business in the first place. So the way I learned about the business is that I believe that I care about learning, and I developed a learning plan. My first goal was that when I started the business, I want to become a business guru. I want to learn everything to do with business. So that was my initial goal. I don't want to fail. I want to make this company successful. I want to show my parents that I didn't go back to grad school, that it was a good thing. Even though nowadays, still my parents think that I'm a loser And seriously, my dad, every time I talk to him, my company did this, his first question is, when are you going to go back to school? That's all he says all the time. So I had a goal. I want to become a greatest businessman. I'm still a small guy, but I want to become like Bill Gates. Whether I can become like Bill Gates or not, but I want to become the best at what I do. So that was my goal. I want to learn about business. Now that I want to learn about business, I needed to develop a competency model. That what are the different skills do I need to have in order to become a successful business person? So first, I know that I need to know about management. I need to know about leadership. I need to have basic understanding about accounting. I need to have understanding about finance. I need to know about marketing, sales. Of course, as the organization grows, you're going to surround yourself with people who have specialized skills into each of the area. But when the company is small, you need to know all about that. But even if you're running a company and you're surrounded by best people out there, you still need to know concept within the business domain. So I developed a competency model, and then I went back and I looked into that how can I combine different types of learning method to learn that. So I was going in and taking classes in college and continuing education division. I was taking classes in Dale Carnegie. But one of my favorite method of learning was reading. And one thing I brag about, that over the last 13 years, I have read over 1,000 business books within the 15 different domains. Of course, the more I read, more confused I get. Everybody, business, all the business topics people talk about, management, leadership, it's all full of contradiction and full of paradoxes. But I've been still learning. So I believe that one of the reasons I became mini successful is because I developed a learning plan. I had a goal. I developed a competency model. I combined different type of learning method, and constantly go back and evaluate the plan that I have, learning plan that I have, and continuously modifying it. So my question to you, and I know there's a lot of highly intelligent people over here, and some of you are way more successful than me. I just want to ask you, how many of you actually have a written learning plan? Nobody has a written learning plan? And I'm sorry?
Written.
Okay, so how many of you have a learning plan but it's not written? Great. So my thing is that I don't know how many successful people have the learning plan or not. This is something I would like you to think about. That even if you're successful, think about what your goals are. It doesn't matter what stage that you are in. Think about what are the things that you really want to become best at. Think about and how you're going to combine. What is your favorite learning method? For me, my favorite learning method is reading. What's your favorite learning method?
Reading.
What about you?
Watching TV.
So different people have favorite. You need to know what's your favorite learning method. Some people like to read. Some people like to take classes. Some people like to hire a coach or mentor. So make sure you know what's your favorite learning method and spend your time in that area. Zig Ziglar said something that you need a plan to build a house. To build a life, it is even more important to have a plan. If we really want to become great, if we want to become successful, if we want to become a genius on anything we do, we got to have a learning plan. Without a learning plan, we cannot get there. And there is a concept goes out there, a 10,000 hours concept that it doesn't matter what you do in life, whether you want to become the greatest CEO or you want to become a greatest salesperson or you want to become a greatest marketing person, you need to spend 10,000 dedicated, concentrated hours within that specific goal in order to become genius. Bill Gates is not a genius. I don't believe it. Steve Jobs is not a genius. They became genius. They didn't born genius. They became genius. That brings me to Steve Jobs' story. I mean, when I found out about Steve Jobs, I mean, I'm in love with this guy. I'm married, by the way. I'm in love with this guy, but when he died, I mean, I was sad. I almost cried. I almost cried when I found out about what happened. But if you analyze Steve Jobs, you're going to find out people talk about Steve Jobs is a technologist, They talk about he's a great artist. People talk about Steve Jobs. He's a great presenter. He's a pitchman. Everybody talks about, and he's a great marketer. He's one of those few guys who combines the left and right brain together, and he used that effectively to build a great organization where it's the second largest company in the world. Now I go back and I look at how did Steve Jobs became a technologist, an artist, a presenter, a marketer. How did he develop those skills? And I know you know his story, and book came out about him. He dropped out from college after first semester. So how did he learn about that? Where did he develop those skills? Now, all the books written about him, I see it talks about who Steve Jobs is and what did he accomplish. It doesn't talk about how did he become who he is, how did he develop those skills. And I did some research before this meeting, and I found out a lot of interesting information. Steve Jobs became a technologist because he had a lot of father figures, and one of his father figures, an inspirational person, was Thomas Edison, Henry Ford. He researched them, he read about them, he got inspiration from them, and that's how he became a technologist. Steve Jobs used to love Bob Dylan. He was the musician. He was in love with Bob Dylan. He admired a guy named Ansel Adams. He's an American photographer. Those guys made him an artist. So we all think that he never went to school, but we don't know what he is reading, who he admires, whose picture is hanging on the wall. Those people had great influence on his life. He became a great marketer. He met a guy named Regis McKenna, the marketing guru of Silicon Valley in 1970s and 1980s, and that's the guy gave him all the advice and inspired him to become a great marketer. As a matter of fact, if Steve Jobs would have given this presentation, he would have practiced it over and over, hours and hours. He didn't become a just great pitchman, great presenter by mistake. He did a lot of study, he did a lot of training. So Steve Jobs was a passionate lifelong learner, and he applied different types of learning methods. Some people like to go to class. Some people do self-study. I believe he liked to do self-study. He surrounded himself with a lot of mentor and coach. If you go to his website, you're going to find out the type of the people he surrounded himself with. So a lot of times I get challenged by people. They say that Bill Gates is dropped out from college. Is he really a learner, lifelong learner? Steve Jobs dropped out from the college. But if you go research them, you're going to find out it's not about college degree. Our education begins after we finish our college. These people didn't go to college, doesn't mean that they are not lifelong learners. Peter Drucker once mentioned that in this knowledge economy, if you don't learn how to learn, you're going to have a difficult time. Different people learn differently. I learn also by asking questions. I learn by doing research. If I want to know about something, I want to go Google, I want to go and read about those, and that's how I learn. So we need to figure out a way how to learn. We need to understand what's effective for us and go and apply it over and over in our life. Now I want to talk about President Clinton. I know I'm talking about all these successful people, and you guys already know about them. I was reading, every time I go and listen to President Clinton, I see that this guy speak with confidence, speak with clarity. He can talk about almost any subject. I actually went to a World Business Forum a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking there about the world business. He was talking about the regulations. He talks about a lot of different issues that has nothing to do with his college degree. Now, when I go back and research about this guy, I found out by reading his book, Clinton Charisma, that Clinton has hunger for learning. Even when he was a young age, any given time, he was reading 3-4 books. He loved going to the library. And I want to tell you, in 1982, he had 1 year off from election. And in that 1 year, Clinton read 300 books in 1 year. If we read 1 book per month, it will take us 25 years. 25 years to read 300 books. You know, one of my goals at some point in my life, when I have a lot of time, I want to beat that record. I don't know, so that's one of my goals. Now, I want to ask you this question, that how many of you read at least one book within your field last month? Great. I mean, we have a highly group of educated people over here, people that are passionate about learning. But I have seen a lot of cases. Statistically, one of the things I found out that 45% of the college grads in the United States did not read a single book after they left college. 45% of the college grads. Now that's how I get the answer when I see so many mediocre people in workplace. It's very difficult to find great people to work for the organization. It's very difficult to find successful people, super successful people. I think one of the reasons is this. People don't like to read. Reading is fundamental. Reading is fundamental. Reading changes our lives. So President Clinton is a lifelong learner. He was an avid reader. And I want to share a quote written by Harry Truman. Not every reader is a leader, but every leader must be a reader. If you want to go on the top on your field, if you want to lead an organization, there's no way around. You need to consistently read. And I'm not preaching you. I know all of you guys are a great reader. I wanted to point that out. So next thing I want to talk about is that if we want to become a passionate lifelong learner, I believe that we need to build a library. Whether it's a digital library in a PDF format or Kindle version or a library at home. For example, for me, I have a library at work. I have a library at home. I have a library, actually, books, Kindle books with me all the time when I'm traveling. I also, in my car, none of you, I think, want to ever drive a car with me. When I'm in my car, I'm listening to business books. I'm listening to, sometimes I'm actually listening words, I'm learning grammars. You know, my background, I came from Bangladesh, so I had to learn this language effectively. So I listen to all these things in my car. So my advice to everybody to build your own digital library or physical library. When you read, you want to take notes, you want to go back to those information. Now I want to read a quote about the library with you. The true university of these days is a collection of books. The true university of these days is a collection of books. Books can change our life. I recently wanted to learn about social media. So I went in and I Googled, and you know, you can Google and find all the information. I really believe that you cannot learn and get deep knowledge about a subject just by Googling and reading all those articles. It gives you basic idea, but you'll never get deep inside of that. So I went back and I started to find out that who are the leaders in the social media, who is admired in the field. I want to read their books. I don't want to just read any books. So I went back, and initially when I read 2-3 books, I got confused. And then if I read another 3-4 books, I started to make the connections, and eventually I started to see the whole picture. And now that I'm working with our social media team, I feel like I can guide them properly in order to implement the social media strategy within the organization. How many of you know Jack Walsh? First. I love listening to Jack Walsh. I just attended one of his conferences a couple of weeks ago, and I'll be taking a class with him, I believe, November 7th. One of the reasons I'm taking class with him, and I'll share the story, I read every single book, Jack Walsh book, written by him. Of course, he didn't write a lot of books, but a lot of books was also written about him. I listened to his CDs. I also go and take classes with him. The reason I find it very effective that if you know something already, and if you read the book, you listen, and you take the class, you'll see that a lot of times by reading the book, you didn't see the whole picture. Or by taking the class, you didn't understand the concept in detail. But when you combine all these different learning methods, it can make you really, really effective. But when I was doing research about Jack Walsh, what I found out that Jack Walsh's bachelor degree and master degree was chemical engineering. When he took the company, it was one of the biggest companies in the world. But when he retired after 30 years of running the company, GE was at one point the largest company in the entire world. So I always thought about how did a chemical engineer ended up running a Fortune 500 company, a #1 company in the world. How did he learn about leadership? How did he become a HR guru? How did he learn about marketing? How did he learn about business management? And he does a lot of merger and acquisition. How did he learn that? Jack Walsh was a passionate, lifelong learner, and he wasn't just passionate about learning. He applied it within his own organization. He consistently applied it. Under his leadership, he was allocating $1 billion per year to open up a location in Crotonville, New York, called Leadership and Management Development Center, where all of his employees were required to go to 2 weeks of training. So he was a passionate, lifelong learner. He was practicing it within himself, and he was also applying it within his organization. One thing he always talks about, that a best-run organization is a learning organization. An organizational ability to learn and translate that learning into action is his competitive advantage. I'm paraphrasing his quote, that he always mentioned that. So Jack Walsh not only learned things, he applied it within his organization. So I want to read a quote from Dale Carnegie. I believe he said that learning is not power, applied learning is power. Knowledge is not power, applied knowledge is power. So just because we are learning things, because a lot of people learn things but they never apply within their life. So I want to summarize what we talked about, that in order to become a lifelong learner, that employee that asked me, Russell, how can I become a lifelong learner? Number one step, that we must understand and appreciate the values of lifelong learning. Number two, we cannot become a lifelong learner unless we make a commitment that we want to become a lifelong learner. Number three is we need to have the right attitude, an attitude of a student to become a lifelong learner. Number four, we need to develop a learning plan. A learning plan consists of learning goals, competency model, learning method, and constantly go back and evaluate the method. Number five, apply different learning method. Understand what works for you and apply that method. And read 2 hours per day, build your own library, and apply what you have learned. I have talked about these steps in this book. Before you leave, you're going to get the copy of the book. So what I finally want to talk about, that if you want to grow, if you want to become successful, if you want to develop confidence, if you want to become a genius, if you want to become rich, if you want to be productive, you and us, we all must become a lifelong learner. I always like to use this quote: the moment you think you know it all, you stop growing. Develop the passion for learning, be a lifelong learner. Now, I have a request to all of you. I know that you're sitting here. I would like all of you to, if you don't mind, stand up for one second. And I would like you to read with me, with passion, this sentence. We are all lifelong learners. We're going to do it 3 times. We are all lifelong learners. We are all lifelong learners. Thank you.